to deep inside of me, where the sky meets and the sea. Heartbeats blend with oceans roar, seeking depth I can't ignore. Shells and sand beneath my toes, tides reveal what ebb and flows. In the quiet still I hear whispered longings crystal clear. Deep calls to deep inside of me, where the sky meets and the sea. Heartbeats blend with oceans roar, seeking depth I can't ignore. Shows a mirror, soul's desire, burning with a holy fire. Depth of love beyond all dreams, in the vastness it redeems.
All right, everybody, welcome. This was a total surprise because I think this just happened yesterday. Yesterday, because Adam put out a video responding to Expedition Bible. I think that's the right name. I don't even know. I don't watch the channel. I've never seen the guy before. And but he sent a thing or posted up on Facebook, I think, that he was going to put this out, and I responded because I was like, I have no strong emotional ties to whichever side of the dating that you're on this. And we'll get into that more later. But I messaged him back, and I was just kind of responding to the things that he was saying. And I was like, dude, just come. I'm going to respond to this. So just come on and we'll just talk about this crazy video. Because
Crazy.
so for those of you that welcome back, Adam, he did that wonderful Torah series with me. We had so much fun doing that. So I'm really glad that we have a chance to have Adam back, and I'm really looking forward to some more of these, and say hi to Kyle. Thanks for coming, Kyle, and also hi to Deborah. We're glad that you're both here. So, Adam, for those of you who might not have interacted with you here before, let us know who you are and why you decided to do a response.
So, I run a small YouTube channel called Linguisamo. We nerd out on all things Old Testament, usually historical, usually involving ancient Near Eastern history that connects to the Old Testament, archaeology, Syro-Palestinian archaeology, and the languages, Hebrew, Greek, or Aramaic. We can also do a little Akkadian on the side. That's roughly what I do there. I will be graduating in May for my second master's from Talbot Seminary. My second master's will be in Old Testament. So I will be quickly meeting with my instructors and supervisors to write a master's thesis, which is crazy that they're letting me write it in a small window instead of at the beginning, but I'm guessing it's not going to be pages upon pages and words upon words of a thesis. So we'll see. I haven't decided on a topic yet.
Good luck, because I just had one semester of thesis writing, and now I have to write the second half, and I'm just like, how in the heck am I going to do this? Because it's crazy. So one of the things that I contacted Adam about doing this, because one, I'd never seen this guy before, and it is some of the most sensationalized drama. I was just laughing at the ridiculousness of it the entire time. I messaged him like, what is this? Miss America meets the old what was it? The Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. It shows up to your
Miss
house
Universe or something, you said. Fabulous.
It was just crazy, but some of the stuff, because and now correct me if I'm wrong, he is an early Exodus date person.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
So yeah, Joel Kramer is an early Exodus date. He works for Associates for Biblical Research, ABR, and unfortunately, the early date Exodus is popular because of them. So we've all heard a pastor say, well, the Exodus was in 1446. Well, the Exodus was in 1446. This is where it comes from, is ABR, Associates for Biblical Research. So if you rewind the clock back, the first theory of the Exodus, of the establishing a date of the Exodus, goes back to an Egyptologist called Richard Lepsius. So that's like 19th century, way back. And it was the late date Exodus. Well, it wasn't called a late date Exodus, then it was just called the date of the Exodus. So then fast forward to the turn of the century. No, not our turn of the century, but their turn of the century, from the 19th to the 20th. You had a guy called James Orr and another guy I can't think of right now. They started proposing a counter Exodus to combat the Frankfurt School and the German liberal scholars of the day, and they found out, or they thought, that the date was going to be 1446, and that's where the early date comes in. And then fast forward, that's where we are today. Usually the major proponents of this are our buddy Joel Kramer, working under the umbrella of Associates for Biblical Research. You have Dr. Oh my gosh, I'm going to fudge up on the names now. There's a Bryant Wood, Dr. Bryant Wood, that's his name. He's a ceramicist. He got his PhD in ceramics. You thought shards and pottery all day. He's retired now, but that's what he did. So you had him. Then you have a couple of people on YouTube promoting our early date Exodus as well.
So before we jump into this video, Adam, why are people making such a big deal about the date of Exodus? What is all the hubbub about?
Well, we aren't actually. We're just following the archaeology and history. Like, we're matching these up. We've got synchronisms. Ramesses II synchronizes with the Hittite king, things like that. My buddy, he's an Egyptologist, Dr. David Falk. He runs a YouTube channel called Ancient Egypt in the Bible. I'm not sure if some of your followers or subscribers know who he is. But he runs a mildly, no, I shouldn't even say mildly successful. It's incredibly successful channel on his. His PhD was in ritualistic furniture, and he actually recently wrote a book, The Ark of the Covenant, in its ancient Egyptian context. It's a long title. So The Ark of the Covenant in its ancient Egyptian context, an illustrated journey, trying to come up with the idea that the Ark of the Covenant dates to the 19th century. At least the design of it was based off of an Egyptian ritualistic box, if you will, with the cherubim on it and protecting sacred space and all that. It's riddled with pictures. It's a fabulous book. I actually recommend it. It's not a bad read, and the pictures are outstanding. I think all of them were taken by Falk. So
we have a question about Exodus. Is that Pharaoh Ramses II or another?
It would be Ramesses II. So another bit of the late date Exodus is that if you read the beginning, the first chapter of Exodus, you come across two storage cities, P. Ramesses and Pithom, and those are Hebraicized. The Egyptian would be actually, I think, Pa Ramesses in Hebrew, but it's P. Ramesses, which means the house of Ramesses. And then the other one is Pithom, which in Egyptian would be P. Atum, which is the house of Atum, which is one of their gods. So those are the storage cities that the writer of Exodus makes mention of in the opening chapter, and those are the two that they built then. Pi Ramesses only has, now the archaeological term for this is one stratum. So it doesn't go down into the ground. It's just got one level, and it dates to the 19th century. So that's another plus for the late date Exodus. The early date Exodus proponents will argue that no, that's just the first stratum, and they'll try and argue that there was another one, or that the city was called something different earlier, and it dates back to the 18th dynasty, which is the 15th century BC. So those are just a couple of the arguments that we go back and forth on. So I don't want to belabor the point, but I
Right.
can keep going on and on and on.
Okay. And I
We all
want to,
have
before
lives to
we,
live.
that's true. I want to really quickly just kind of give us a narrative context of Exodus before we jump into this, because
Mm,
that might help people understand why this is something that matters, right? So we've got at the
a
end of
narrative con.
a narrative context. Yeah, of course, that's what I do, man. The narrative. I'm all about the
Okay,
narrative. So, so
true.
I'm
So
gonna
on the
steal.
whole,
Mhm.
I, as far as the historicity of the Exodus is concerned, if you want to talk about the narrative, it matters very little. Uh, if we're talking about the historicity of it, it doesn't
Uh-huh.
really matter. Um, One of the cool things about my last semester, or that we just finished this, was studying under Dr. Carmen Imes for the
Mhm.
seminary or seminar for Exodus. And the whole course was a study of the narrative.
Mhm.
So anytime that I got to speak up, I would add some sort of something about Egypt and history and everything. So, but on the grand scheme of things, it's doesn't really matter narratively or theologically, whether it happened or not. Um, Although there is historical evidence that that it did happen. Um, you have God rescuing uh, the mixed multitude, if you will, to use Deuteronomy 7:7 from Egypt. They get baptized, if you will, through the Reed or Red Sea, and then they go through a wilderness wander, or they go to the Mount Sinai, receive the instructions, the Torah, and then they go through the wilderness. So, and it sort of echoes on that's a macrocosm um, of what our lives are like when we come to Christ. Anyway, God saves us, then we're the baptism through the Red Sea, and then we get to experience the gifts that come along with it. Yeah, we do experience wilderness wanderings in our walk with Christ. Um, More than once. I'm kind of currently going through that right now, if you know what's going on in my life. So that's that's how the Exodus can play out theologically, and even narratively for the nation of Israel as well. So, and you see this constantly throughout the Old Testament. The Exodus shows up over and over, or chaos, the chaos
Mhm.
comp. You see that over and over and over. So,
You and I will have to do a video just talking about the narrative Exodus, because I have interesting perspectives on the wilderness journey in the book of Numbers. So we will have to do a
okay,
video on that, because I've come to see that a little differently. So
okay,
that'll be a discussion for another day that has nothing to do with whatever in the
nothing to
world
do
is
with it.
going on with this video. So
Yeah. So we can get started. It's
we're
all
going to
right.
jump into the 26 mark of this,
Hmm.
because this is where he's setting up these letters that were discovered. So Adam, set this up for us, because I just don't want to relive any more of this drama than necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So he shows up in the Berlin Museum. Actually, that's where these are housed, is in Berlin. And you see the letters. I put S at the end because there's more than one letter. You can clearly see it's not just one. And he focuses in on um, Armana letter. Was it 280? I think. And he goes, "This is the only one on display. I was disappointed because this is the only one they have on display." And it's like there's clearly like 9 or 10 of them right behind you on display. Um, and he's trying to play up this idea that trying to find it in my notes. That's why I'm looking over here. I want to say it's EA 180.
That sounds scarringly familiar.
Scarringly. So, and he's trying to tie whoever is mentioned there, one of the kings of the one of the Canaanite city states at the time, and he's trying to link. It's trying to say that the Hapiru are attacking me. Please, he wants Egypt to help him, and of course, Egypt never responds. They're just there. They have a presence there, but they don't really care as long as someone's paying them tribute. So Egypt just has like garrison towns throughout the
Mhm.
Levant there, and they're just exacting tribute. That's the only reason why they're there. They don't care what
Okay.
else happens. So
All
one of
right.
these kings is petitioning Egypt for help.
Mhm.
Um, the Hapiru are
Oh
invading,
boy.
are coming in and invading, and
Sorry.
then you find out that, well, I'll explain that part later, but that's the context of what's going on here. And he's trying to equate the Hapiru to the Israelites.
I've messaged you a lot about the Hoppy because I'm like,
I
what in
look
the world is
disappointed, man. Look at that.
going on here? Well, it was just unfortunate. So you guys will have to tell me if this works with the sound
Oh.
waves. I have never done this before. This is a brand new thing. So I don't know if the sound is going to work or not. It's turned on my end, but I don't know if it'll go through, and we'll see. Okay, so we're going to try it and see.
You
There
should
we
just
go.
be able to hit play. Okay. Oh, I've got no sound. Okay. I could not hear that. Could they hear that?
Okay, no sound. So how do I fix that? No, I guess they couldn't hear that. So I'm going to try this again. We're going to stop sharing. Josh Davidson, I need your expertise here, sir, because I don't know what I'm doing. Claire, okay. How do I do that?
Oh, share sound on tab. That was right.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. I'm going to have to. So let's see. While I do that, why don't you talk about what he's talking about in the part that you and I heard that they didn't, so I can get this fixed. Let's see. Just kind of give people a setup for what he's talking about with this letter, and the part that you and I saw
frozen.
That I don't know. We're having all kinds of technical difficulties here. Share audio. Okay.
What's it called? Demons in the Tech?
Yeah. So, oh, I think I know what is the problem. Let's try this again. Okay. I think we lost Adam there for a second. All right. Okay. So we're going to do grace and grace and grace here. So I'm going to back up to, all right. Did we get that? I think.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to, okay, let's try this again. So I'm paying attention to my other stuff on the side there. I think I figured it out. So let me know if this works this time. We're going to go back to the place that we were going to start before and try again.
But definitely early on.
Capital from Thebes to Akhetaten. And so this is where his palace was. This is where his royal archive was. And this is where this tablet came from that's on display in Berlin. But interestingly, it's not addressed to Akhenaten. It's addressed to his father, Amenhotep III. And this is the case.
So the letters, the Amarna letters span roughly 3 pharaohs, Amenhotep III, Akhenaten, and Tutankhamun. So various letters will be addressed to one of these 3 kings. And it's usually the kings or mayors of these Canaanite city-states are petitioning the king of Egypt to support them. But we'll get into that here in a little bit. I'm getting ahead of myself once again. Surprise, surprise.
With several of the letters that are coming from Canaan being addressed to Amenhotep III. And what this means is that when Akhenaten moved his capital from Thebes, then he took at least some of the royal archive with him, which then later would eventually be discovered at Tel El Amarna. So this letter that is on display in the Berlin Museum, what does it actually say? Message of Abdi Heba. The land of the king is lost. I am at war. I am situated like a ship in the midst of the sea. Now the Habiru have taken the very cities of the king. Not a single mayor remains to the king, my lord. All are lost. The king does nothing. May the king provide archers. If there are no archers this year, all the lands of the king, my lord, are lost. After seeing this Berlin tablet, I wanted to go back to Jerusalem.
Okay, so I'm going to stop there for a second. I wish I had this guy's travel budget.
That's what I said too. I'm not sure if I said it in the video. I think I did.
You did, yeah.
Like, man, I wish I could travel. Just like, hey, I'm just gonna go to Berlin.
So what did he say that? Like, so explain to us what we just heard there, because that sounded like a lot of I don't know what.
So So this letter was addressed to Akhenaten. And like I said, the Egyptians just had a presence there. They established garrison towns in the area just to get tribute from them. So they
Okay.
don't care. They don't care who's there as long as they get what they want.
So what's the significance that he's trying to make by claiming that the capital or he moved from up to where he was to up to where they and I'm like I don't know the names of that's gonna not stick in my head.
Oh,
But
so you had in the 18th dynasty, you had Amenophis or Amenhotep IV was his name.
uh-huh.
He changed his name and started worshiping the Aten,
Mhm.
and he changed his name to Akhenaten. He moved the capital from Thebes up to, and he founded a capital called Akhet-Aten, which is the horizon of the Aten. In Egyptian, that's what it means. The horizon of the Aten. And he took some of those Armana letters with him
Okay.
that were there. That's what he's saying. So Akhenaten was that
Okay. I'm gonna
1350?
we're just about I think it was. Um we're gonna skip ahead a little bit here.
Yeah.
I think to this point, maybe we'll just kind of skip up here.
Ruler of Shechem has given all the land of Shechem over to the Habiru. Abdi Heba says, or shall we do like Labayu, who
Okay, before he dives into this, he sort of omits certain elements of the letters. So this one in particular is a good example. And we again, I think we should show caution here, and we shouldn't assume that the Hapiru took these cities, but rather that Labayu gave them into their hands. I say this because it seems that Labayu is not from Shechem, and could very well be one of the Hapiru who possibly usurped the throne at Shechem. EA 252, that is Armana letter 252, hints that Labayu may have lost his hometown, stating, "Say to the king, my lord," this is Egypt, "message of Labayu, your servant. I fall at the feet of the king, my lord. As to you having written me, guard the men who seized the city. How am I to guard such men? It was in war that the city was seized. When I had sworn my peace, and when I had sworn the magnates swore with me, the city, along with my God, was seized. He has slandered me," literally it reads, "I am slandered," "before the king, my lord. Moreover, when an ant is struck, does it not fight back and bite the hand of the man that struck it?" He'll say this in a little bit. "How at this time can I show deference or deference, and then another city of mine will be seized? I will do..."
Okay, so to me, I'm going to stop it right there. To me, this sounds like there is the ancient Near East thing going on where your land is tied to your sovereignty and your power. And so these Habiru are coming through and threatening the land and the power status of these Egyptian outposts.
Yeah.
And okay, so because Egyptology and history is not my thing. So kind of give us a little bit of why this matters, context for what's happening here.
Absolutely. So the Hapiru or Habiru, you can either spell with a P or B, it doesn't matter. They are a social class of people who have been uprooted from their homes. So they were, these people were probably forced to adapt to a new environment. That's what Nadav Naaman says. And the different traits and social behavior of the Hapiru in each area of this particular area are the outcome of this adaptation. So the reason for breaking off their former political or social ties were because of wars, disasters, famines, debt, heavy taxes, and prolonged military service. So they've been forced to leave their homeland and seek new opportunity elsewhere. And they usually operated independently. So if Labayu here, the guy that he's talking about who took over, we think he usurped Shechem. And when he usurped Shechem, he also had a family. And then later on, you see him give land out to his sons. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if the Hapiru in this time period are the Israelites, because they're allowing, like, it would be like allowing a Canaanite king like Jabin, for example. I think some of us, we should know who Jabin is from the book of Joshua.
Mhm.
It would be weird if he were a Hapiru, if he were an Israelite fighting against the Israelites.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So the idea that the Israelites could be Hapiru, yes, they could be, but it would have to be at a later time, because this doesn't really make sense here. So
Okay.
that's what's going on here. So Labayu could be a person of the Hapiru, and he's just giving out land to his son, who is also a son of a Hapiru, and then he's fighting the Hapiru as well. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right. I'm trying to skip ahead to the one to the okay. I want
Mhm.
to go back. I'm gonna try it up here, I think.
The biblical record, the Bible says that the Israelites were not able to take this Canaanite city, and that Gezer did not become Israelite until the reign of King Solomon. Later in Joshua 11, the Bible talks about the Israelites' battle at Hazor. Joshua 11 says, at that time, Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword. Everyone in it they put to the
Hazor.
sword. They totally
It's just so painful to listen to this sometimes. Hatzor, Hazor, Knutson. It's just
destroyed them, and he burned Hazor itself. Now, this is a very intriguing site when it comes to the Amarna letters, because letter 148 is a letter that is sent from the ruler of Tyre that says that the Habiru have taken Hatzor. So in Joshua 11, we have Hatzor destroyed by Joshua and the Israelites, and we know that the city of Hatzor continued as a Canaanite city after that, because later in Judges 4, we have another conflict that is between the Israelites and the king of Hatzor. And so we have two burn destructions here at Hazor, one from the Joshua period, which is the lower one that's down underneath our feet here, and then
all
the upper
underneath your
one
feet,
is
bro.
from the Judges period, because for whatever reason, after they took the city in the time of Joshua, it remained a Canaanite city. We know this because there's another conflict with Hazor in the time of the Judges at the time of Deborah and Barak.
I could cry every time. A little.
Okay, we're gonna just okay. So, Adam, explain this to those of us that this just went over their heads, because I just,
You catch that though,
can't.
right underneath us,
I
right underneath us. And I go, everything's underneath you.
It was
So Hatzor or Hatzor or Hazor, if you want to really make my ears bleed, is a city that dates back to the Middle Bronze Age. So it dates back from before 1550 BC. But what's interesting is that we find continuous occupation in Hatzor from 1550 to 1200, which matches the late date. Though some changes do exist in the city. There'd be a building that ran out of commission here, or they leveled a building to rebuild it later. You see some of those kind of changes, but the city itself shows that Hatzor was continuously occupied from the end of the Middle Bronze Age to the end of the Late Bronze Age, so 1550 to 1200. For example, some of the small changes were one, the Acropolis was redesigned and partly rebuilt. A new symmetrical monumental temple called the Long Temple was renewed. Then there were also new excavations on the northern temple of the city that was built in Area A. So archaeologically, the city will have areas A, B, C, D, and so forth to better organize what's going on. So the Northern Temple was built in the Late Bronze Age, blah, 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 and abandoned in Late Bronze Age too. I'm just giving you guys examples of some small changes. There was no destruction layer, but we got changes this. So stratum 14 reflects the most change of the city. So strata, you got stratum 1, and then the further down you go, you count up. So stratum 1, stratum 2, stratum 3, stratum 4, all the way down. So the 14th stratum, or it's 1 stratum, 2 strata, 2. It's like datum and data for the singular plural.
right.
I'm trying to give you guys a reference. So stratum 14 reflects the most change. That's the Acropolis underwent that change and everything in spatial organization. The temple went out of use, the Northern Temple went out of use, and blah, blah, blah. there was a huge storage facility in the northeast part of A that was unused, and blah, blah, blah. So go back up one stratum to stratum 13, and we see the destruction layer of Hatzor, which dates to the 13th century or the end of the 13th century, somewhere around 1200. Though the precise dating is debated. So whether that was 1200, 1197, 1203, we don't know. But it was somewhere in that area. And there really isn't a destruction layer that would match a 1446 date at all. So yeah, it just doesn't match up with it. So we have continuous occupation from 1550 all the way down.
Okay. Well, I jumped ahead a little bit, and I want to get to the just kind of get to where he starts explaining some stuff here in a second. But this I thought was kind of it's all interesting, but that's all in quotation marks.
And we also have another destruction layer that dates to 1200. And then there's an abandonment level in the 11th century, or at least there's a destruction level, or at least a level that reveals an abandonment. And none of these dates line up with what Kramer's saying. You've got the destruction layer from 1550 that
Joshua, we have this list of all these Canaanite kings that are killed by the Israelites, and the king of Shechem.
Which, by the way, I do want to point this out. It's very interesting what he said here, is because the book of Joshua seems to lay out a land grant treaty. What I'm saying is that the book of Joshua is a land grant treaty, according to Dr. Richard Hess. He's written extensively on this, that the book of Joshua seems to align with the Alalach Treaty of 456, which is also a land grant treaty.
Shechem is not listed among them. So somehow we have Shechem being taken over by the Israelites without a battle. And this is exactly what we have in the Amarna letters. This is not my interpretation. This is the interpretation of John Garstang, who excavated many Canaanite cities within the borders of Canaan, and who believed and followed the biblical date for the conquest of 1400
biblical
BC.
Date.
And like Knutson,
there he is with that accusation. His date's the biblical date, and no other date can be.
he considered the Habiru in the Amarna letters that were attacking Canaan to be equivalent with the Hebrew Israelites of the Old Testament. In his book, Joshua and Judges, in regard to Joshua's entry into Shechem, Garstang wrote, Joshua's last years, during which the settlement of the tribes began, may have overlapped to some extent the period covered by the Amarna letters. The point is of great interest, as in some of these, direct reference is made to Shechem and the part played by its chief Labayu in the anti-Egyptian revolution of the day. Garstang believed that the
anti-Egyptian revolution of the day. What?
On a letter account that Labayu had given over the land of Shechem to the Habiru, that this was directly related to the covenant renewal ceremony that takes...
Okay, we're going to stop there for a second because...
So, did you notice that at the beginning, like before, as soon as you hit play, he goes, "This is the biblical date."
I know. I was cringing so hard.
Eerily familiar to a theological? Doesn't that sound eerily familiar to a theological system that we all know and don't like?
Oh boy, I tell you, I just putting that loveliness aside. I okay. So walking us through the I know. Okay, so what is this apparent anti-Egypt revolution that's going on?
He seems to conflate the invasion of the Hapiru with a revolution against the Egyptians. That's what he seems to do, or I think that's what he's thinking, and he's calling that a revolution. And he's not. It's not a revolution. They're just invading. They're trying to replace the Hapiru are coming in. They're invading a city. They take over the city. Then they install one of their kings over it, but they still have to pay tribute to Egypt. That's it. They're invading, but they also just seeking a new life.
So are these kind of like trying to find a new life mercenaries forces that get hired? Okay.
Some of them have been hired for mercenaries too, to fight other Hapiru because they're trying to do the same thing. That's exactly it.
Okay, so you've got people who have been displaced who are looking for a home that will go in and take one, and sometimes they do it for hire.
Yeah.
So so theoretically, if one group of Hapiru takes a city, then somebody like Egypt would hire another group of Hapiru to go in and take it back.
Yeah.
And
That
then you
could-
got
that could very-
Hapiru fighting Hapiru.
Yeah,
So okay.
that could very well happen
So
too.
we can't quite make the one-to-one correlation that if it looks like Hapiru, that means that it's the wandering Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm following here because it's it's
Yeah, you get
it's
it.
fun. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Anti-revolution of Egypt of the day.
Really?
What?
I just
Oh, this can't be true. Like, my word.
Place at the end of the book of Joshua in Joshua chapter 24. Garstang points out that the covenant renewal event at Shechem was at the end of Joshua's life, because in the chapter before, chapter 23, is Joshua's farewell to the leaders, where it says that Joshua by then was a very old man. Then comes the covenant renewal at Shechem as a kind of final act, followed by verse 29, which says, "After these things, Joshua son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. And therefore he saw the end."
So the age of 110 is an Egyptian thing. 110 was believed to be you were a wise man if you lived 110 years old. That's really all that means, if you're just curious. I know that's kind of an addendum to this video and has nothing to really do with the content here. But if you were just curious what 110 years means, it's just means you were a wise man.
Of Joshua.
Joseph again.
okay. So
Yeah, Joseph was 110.
yeah.
And the same thing. He was a wise man. That's why
It
they
just-
put it 110.
Ancient Near East speak for this dude was old and knew a lot.
Yep.
That's what
He didn't live to 110. I think it's good to
Right.
know that he didn't live to 110. It just means he was old and wise.
right. I mean, he could have
Yeah.
been 110, but we
He
don't
could have, but
we don't know that either. So I think I'm about done with Mr.
yeah, one and done.
Like I just that's enough of that for me. So let's talk about this a little bit more, because there is one point that I was going to go to, but then I decided why put everybody else through that. If you want to see that, you can go watch the full video on Adam's channel. I need to go back and add the link to this in the description for the full video of Adam's reaction. But there's one point where he's standing there just like flapping, making a big deal about who are the Hapiru. It's just like somebody just won Miss America or something. I just
That's every video.
like,
That's every video of his. He did
I
one
don't-
8 months ago where he entered the tomb of Amenhotep, Amenhotep the second, because that's the early date Exodus. That's their pharaoh, Amenhotep II, and he's wondering why the tomb was closed. Now, I didn't make he made this video, and then my buddy over at Ancient Egypt in the Bible reacted to this video, and Kramer's making a big fuss and a big deal about why is this tomb closed? Why is this tomb closed? I don't get it. And Falk pauses the video and goes, because they don't care. Egypt, the antiquities minister in Egypt doesn't care that Amenhotep the second is your Exodus pharaoh. It was
okay, so I want to context all of this a little bit, because we've kind of been poking a little bit of fun at this whole thing, because it
Yep.
to me is extra ridiculous. But okay. So, and there was one thing too that he hit. We showed one part of it, but there was another one where you stopped and actually pointed this out. A lot of the resources that he put up are scholars from like 1912 and 1850 something. It's like he didn't, to what I saw, he didn't use any contemporary like last 50 year
No.
scholars. So he's not using what's happening now in Egyptology and on archaeology. He's stuck back when it helps prove his point better.
Yeah, like Garstang lived 90 years ago, from 1932, and then he quotes a guy from 1914. So he's using outdated sources instead of using his argument, instead of propping up his argument using current archaeological reports, for example, or current scholars within the field of Egyptology and Syro-Palestinian archaeology. He might use Wood, who's again the ceramics. I'm sorry, I could not do I can't do ceramics and study shards and pottery. I could not do that and then write a dissertation on it. He'll quote him sometimes, He didn't in this video because it's irrelevant. He didn't talk about pottery at all. That's really the only, and that was the 90s, like the 1990s. And it's been, my gosh, I don't even want to know how long back that's been. I think it's been 30
Right.
years we're going on now. So there's been more recent scholarly work on ceramics, on ceramics and studying pottery and dating it and using relevant dating methods. So it's really the only time is when it seemingly props up his argument. He'll never use modern day archaeological reports or scholars like the guy who Marvin Beetalk, or not Marvin, Martin Beetalk is or was a Viennese. He's an Austrian archaeologist. He studies at, I'm going to get this wrong probably. It's in the Goshen area. We'll just make it broad. Where Goshen is, he's over there. I think Avaris. So he's the lead archaeologist at Avaris, and he won't even use him because it supports all the data coming out of his digs support a late date Exodus. And he actually believes in Exodus. I don't think he's a believer in scripture at all, but he firmly believes that an Exodus happened, but he chooses a slightly later date than we would. So we think the Exodus happened at like 1210, 1220. He chooses a later date, an even later date that's less popular. So
Yeah,
he could have used a non-believing scholar to prop up his argument, which would have probably lent some credibility to his argument because that guy doesn't care. So
this to me begs the question, or raises the question about the role of scholarship in faith and theology, because you and I've talked about this, and we talked about it a little bit before we hit the button to start about, it's really, I think we trace this back to, you can really go back to the Enlightenment and the Reformation, and how that one of the things that the Enlightenment did as a reaction to the 30 Years' War and the soaking and saturating of Europe in the blood of the reformers. Let me just be honest. They're running around killing each other's followers. And Martin Zwingli died in battle against, I don't know, I think it was Calvin's supporters. I'm not sure. A lot of people killing each other over disagreements of religion, right? And so in the Enlightenment, there's a reaction in to say, like, we're tired of bloodshed because of religion. So it's been this very long game of, you go back and you look at the history of biblical studies. I had to do some of that last semester. And I was just like, I was amazed, like undercutting confidence in the biblical languages, to undercut confidence in the Bible, to discredit and discourage people from faith, discrediting academic integrity of, faith-based scholars. It's been a dismantling and switching from being to saying that this is the tradition we've been handed and it's true. And here's the facts that are like, oh, this is cool. I already knew that. But if you want a sciencey thing to support that, that's cool. To being, I'm going to start from doubt and I need you to prove it to me to be true. And I'm saying that seems backwards. Like we should be like, we should believe it's true. And the rest of this is just really cool stuff. That's like, this is highlights. Look, we found this. Isn't that awesome? This is where Joshua did this, or this is where Moses did this, or, this is the church in Ephesus, or like, it's like, we don't need those things for us to have the truth. Those are good apologetics tools to be able to like say, like, look, these places actually existed. So that lends, just prop up like support, but it isn't something that demands proof to be true. So
correct. Yeah.
I think there's a mind shift there that a lot of people haven't quite seen and made, and turning that around. It's starting to turn around with some of the younger generation, and the part of feeding the exit of people from the Protestant world, because that is not the mindset of other traditions. So,
Right. Yeah.
and I think so. And as you and I are both working on finishing up, hopefully, God willing, our degrees this
Right.
May, and then both of us will be, well, if we survive, launching into post grad degrees at
Post
some.
grad.
Oh, Lord have mercy. And but so it's a little bit, we have to kind of walk a careful line here, because it does matter. So it's not irrelevant. And we don't want to say, well, you just have to believe it because I said so. But it also doesn't mean I need those things for the story to be true to prove it to me. Kind of a balance. So where in all of that is your studies in the ancient languages and your interest in all of the history and Egyptology? Does that land in that conversation, in that back and forth pull, Adam?
So for me, the Exodus, it was really cool. For me, I thought it was true. Like you said, I thought it was true before I came to study the historicity of it, if you will, and the languages. I thought it was already true, and if it didn't, oh well. That's how I looked at it when I was saved 17 years ago. I didn't care. He pulled me out of depression. When I mean he, I mean Christ, just pulled me out of depression. He pulled me out. Actually, my wife was the one who led me to Christ. There's a good thing, but she wasn't my wife then. So he pulled me out of this slump. My dad had just died. I'm going to give you a little background for me. So my dad died in 2000. It's been, this is the 20th year. He died then. And then for a year and a half, I found a nice bottle of booze and just, that's how I coped with his death until I met my future wife, and then got saved, and then married her and had 2 kids. So that's that in a nutshell. I was more concerned about sanctification and becoming more Christ-like with it, and I saw echoes of that in Exodus, in the event Exodus, also the book, but to differentiate.
Right.
The event Exodus, because it sort of echoes this salvation a little bit, in that God saves us first, and then we're sort of baptized in the Red or Reed Sea, however you decide to translate Yam Suf, and then they went into the wilderness, and then you get to enjoy the promises and the fruits if you follow Christ and abide in him, as the writer of the Gospel of John, aka John, says. So I was all about that. I still am about that. I will be about that in the future. So, and then you see that resurrection narrative too. You can see that in the event of Exodus as well, in that they didn't have life before. They walk through the Red Sea, and then they have life, and then they receive instructions, Torah at Mount Sinai, and then there's the wilderness and everything. So I was really more concerned about that than the historicity of the Exodus, even though it's fun.
And I run into this a lot because what I do is narrative, and may his memory be eternal. I got the privilege to study under Dr. Ray Lubeck, who is the one who taught Carmen Imes and Tim Mackey and Andrew Teeter and several others. And I get to take his work and invigorate it in a whole nother context, to be able to make it even more accessible to more people. Hopefully, God willing, that works, and which is my thesis. But I have come to, with so many classes with the folks I had at Multnomah, and the woman who's my thesis advisor, and now I'm doing a teaching apprenticeship with her this semester. And Dr. Amber Dillon, she's a Johannine scholar who also is heavily into intertextuality, and intertextuality is my at that I love it, because it works so beautifully with narrative, because you can go to all the points of the story and the narrative. So I spend most of my time in that world, in the narrative and the intertextuality of it. I don't pay as much attention. So a lot of the stuff that you're doing, that's why you and I think work well when we collab together so well, because I'm so heavy on the narrative side and you're heavier on the linguistic and the historical side. So we get to kind of bring both sides to the table, which is really fun. But I think for me, the narrative is all a theological telling. So all of these books, the Torah is told through theology, and the books of history are told through theology, and the prophetic warnings and the Exodus, or not the Exodus, diaspora, are all told through a theological lens. These are all a story of theology that tells us how to interact with history. It tells us how to interact with culture. It tells us how to interact with government. It tells us how to interact in the liturgical rhythm of life. Like it is the story, the meta narrative that really is the thing. And like any other, and now stay with me until the end of this here. So what really matters is that the narrative is true. So for the narrative to be true, it could be a narrative about Moses, but Moses doesn't have to be real for the story to still have the same power. It's cool that he is real and that all of that actually happened. It is a true story, but for the power of it, it doesn't have to be. Like I know I've been called in a few times on a couple of Twitter spaces and some other things to referee, was Jonah real? And I'm like, does it matter? For the book of Jonah, does it matter? With the story doesn't care. You know, it's cool that it is like real, and we believe that these are real things and real places and real people, but the narrative itself is more about presenting the story of God wanting to dwell with his people. And that's what the story is. So to me, that's why when you first posted this up, and
he wants
everybody.
The nations. That's what I got out of Jonah, was like, he wants the Ninevites to come do that. He wanted the Egyptians to do the same thing in the book of Exodus, and they didn't, unfortunately. But and
I think that when you're dealing with a theological narrative, and in Hebrew, and in somewhat Greek, but it's more so in Hebrew, I think, that time is kind of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey in the way they tell stories. Because you know, and Adam, you can correct, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a quote from the Fourth Doctor, which I love, which to me wraps up and it just kind of exemplifies how the Hebrew mind would tell stories. It's like first things first, but not necessarily in that order. Like that's the way that the Hebrews tell stories. Like, like first things first. Here's the important part, but we're going to take 57 detours to get there to the first point. So
wait.
Right, because you're like this, and then because even to Genesis 1, you get the light, and then you get to day 4, and then you get the sun and the moon, and you're like, wait, what? Like, you know, so it in Hebrew, in the Hebrew mind, it doesn't, the chronological or bullet point order doesn't really matter. They don't think like we do. They don't care about that. They're wanting to tell the story, and they'll tell it and weave it in the way that they're trying to present what they're trying to get their point across about God and what God is teaching us in this. So it is just really, it's really beautiful to me to be able to step back and look at all this beautiful narrative. And I'm working on a series right now talking about the history of liturgy, and starting in Genesis 1 and how we're built for liturgical rhythms based on the night and the day, because it's if you're not used to the Levitical and the Old Testament Torah, the day starts at sunset, and then you know your liturgical day starts at sunset the day before. If you're not used to that, that doesn't mean as much in Genesis when it talks about evening and morning, and then it was day, whatever. But that's building in liturgy. That's building in the rhythm of liturgical existence. So, you know, whether it's flat earth or old earth or new earth, it doesn't matter. The Bible doesn't care about how old the earth is. Not really. That's not relevant to the story. So if you were to go ask whoever wrote that down for Moses when he's telling it, and they would ask him, how old is the earth? He would have looked at you like, well, that's a dumb question. What are you even asking me that for? Because that's not the point. The point is we're standing and looking at this amazing universe created by a God who is working to get back in with his people. Like that's the whole point. And it takes as long as it takes, So I think like that, and that's one of the things I think that the reason I wanted to have you come on and talk about this was, one, because that his video just it was painful, but I laughed at the whole thing and how ridiculous the whole thing I thought it was. And just to kind of prove a point that sometimes I think we get too impressed with the arguments of the dating and the historical anchors and all of these kinds of things, and we get sidetracked with squirreling on, the shiny things and lose sight of the things that are really important. So, thoughts on that, Adam?
I would definitely agree. We seem to lose sight on the grander picture. You said it with I think we both said it with the Exodus narrative, and then you said it with the creation narrative as well. I'd like to add to that too. It would be weird on our end going up. Was it the Reed Sea or the Red Sea? And Moses be like, really, really, 1446 or 1220? Really? That's what you're worried about? You're worried about? What about all like saving us going through the Reed, going through that, and then coming out on the other end? Like,
it just, the whole thing just kind of, I'm just, okay. That's why when you initially posted up that you were going to do this, I was like, I have no real emotional investment in this one way or the other. Because I really don't, as far as the narrative is concerned, and as far as it's true, whether they find those things or not, but it is super cool. I would love to be able to go see some of that stuff because that's amazing. But I don't need it to know that it's true. I don't need it to know that that's truth. And
my mother says that to me. She's like, I don't care. I don't care if it happened or not. As long as Jesus rose from the dead at the end and comes back, that's it. That's all I care about.
And I think sometimes these kinds of things are causing divisions that don't really need to be there. Like if you're going to plant your flag so firmly in one camp or the other, as far as like the dating of the Exodus event is concerned, that you're willing to call people heretics or throw them out of the kingdom over it, then I think that you have a heart problem. And that needs to get addressed, because the Bible doesn't stand or fall on what day the Exodus happened.
Yeah, correct.
The Bible doesn't stand or fall on if Jonah was actually a real person or a satire to point out how ridiculous Israel is to themselves. The Bible doesn't stand and fall on the actual day of Christmas. It stands and falls on the incarnation and God's heart to be with his people so much that he put on those garments of skin, walked among us, lived, died, and that is going to restore all of creation. This is a cosmic thing that's happening here, and that's the thing that's important. Not, I just Absolutely. I hear people divide over the silliest things sometimes, and I just kind of shake my head because it doesn't. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. So
all right.
we said an hour because this was a last minute surprise kind of thing, and I've got to actually get some thesis work done today.
I gotta eat.
Adam, it was so great to have you back on, and good to you and I haven't I kind of ghosted several people for a little while finishing up the semester there. That just about killed me. That last 3 weeks of the semester, I'm amazed I'm alive. It was rough.
That'll be me this semester.
Oh, I know.
No one will see me probably. I'm gonna try and churn out content, but
you get into, you're like, okay, I've got a plan. I'm going to do this and this and this. And then you get to the actual reality of, oh my gosh. And
right. That's when you start turning your papers into content.
That's right. Absolutely. So I'm going to let, go ahead. So I'm going to let you just kind of promo like what you've got coming up, talk about your channel, where people can find you, what you've got coming up.
Yeah.
Then we'll wrap up.
So I run the channel. All right, it's Linguisamo over at YouTube. My ex account's Amo Linguist. But Linguisamo at YouTube. I just finished a video on Joel Kramer and Expedition Bible, and I actually turned one of my papers into a video on offering tables and comparing it to the table of the presence. Those are my 2 recent videos, and then I released a short on the theological significance of the table of the presence, which I thought was fascinating. It didn't garner that much attention, but I thought it was fascinating. I think I write great.
I loved it. I thought it was
I
great.
would read it. Not to toot my own horn, but so I got coming up. I'm gonna do a short Frank Turk, because he decided to visit the Merneptah stele, which has Israel written on the has the name Israel on the stele. And then I'm going to critique one of his videos because he downloads the information from Associates for Biblical Research and the Early Day Crowd, and he goes off on these discoveries. So I'm going to release a video probably at the end of the week on reacting to one of his, and then I'll probably turn out more content. I just haven't decided yet. So the next video will probably be another reaction video on Frank Turk, who I actually respect and love. I really like the guy. And after that, we'll see. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, if we both survive, God willing, at this summer, you and I will do some more collab, collab work if we survive.
More collab work in the near future.
Because I really enjoy doing collabs with Adam. I have a lot of fun doing it, and it's always a joy to have him here. So what I've got coming up, so Friday, I am showing up on Soteriology 101, and we are going to be talking about the fact that the book of Judges proves free will. So that's going to be really interesting and fun. And that is going to be, and I almost forgot, because I was going to talk about this a lot, because everybody go over to, I don't have it pulled up, but I will put a link in the description afterwards. A friend of ours, Dr. Joel Koretko, some of you are familiar with him. He's been on Soteriology 101. He has a great channel that talks. He's a Septuagint scholar, Old Testament expert. Joel is a fantastic individual, but on Christmas Eve, his 4-year-old daughter was diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia, and they have both he and his wife have quit their jobs and have moved to the big city to be near the hospital so that they can take care of that little girl. So some friends have set up a GoFundMe to help them with some expenses and to be able to just focus on caring for their daughter. Because I think he said it was an aggressive form that only has like a 60% success rate. So, I mean, Lord have mercy on that poor family and that little girl. So everybody, please go over there. I will put the link underneath. Please go over there and help out that family if you haven't yet. That situation is just heartbreaking. So Leighton and I are going to bring some attention to that on his channel. His channel is much bigger than mine, so hopefully we'll get more traffic over there. And then I've got a video with Phil Bray coming out in January, I think January 20th, talking about food and cups in the Bible. And we're going to look at the Old Testament imagery of food and cups and how those work together, and the feasts and fastings and the festivals and some of that kind of stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then a couple of days later, we've got a video coming out with Phil Bray's coming back. Spencer Owen's going to join us, and we are going to talk about the garments of skin in Genesis. And I am so excited about that conversation. That's going to be amazing. Yep. And then on the 13th, I don't want to forget this one either. On the 13th, Warren McGrew and Josh Davidson and Spencer Owen are coming, and we are going to talk about another episode in the how to read the hard parts of the Bible. And we are going to talk about what Calvinism does to reading the Bible. So we are going to talk about how that doesn't work and makes the Bible hard to read. So join us for that one. That'll probably be the most controversial video I ever do because I'm not usually.
I need to pick their brains about Genesis. No, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart.
Oh.
Linguistically, it doesn't really align with Calvinism at all if you look at the Hebrew.
Yeah.
With the 4 words for hardening, there are like 4 different words for hardening in Hebrew, and I need to pick their brains about Calvinism on that one, since they know about all that stuff far better than I do. So,
yeah. So it'll be there's some interesting stuff coming out, and then that'll probably be the end of content for a little while because of the way the schedule works. I have to turn my thesis in 3 weeks early, so I'm just like persona non grata after that for February and March. It's not happening. So I know it's lovely, isn't it? How things
Can't
work.
wait. Just wait until we
So
do PhD. You guys will never see us.
I think I'm going to go the easy way and do the doctoral program instead of the PhD.
Ah,
I'm
the
going to wimp
demon.
out. See, yeah, well, no, it's a doctorate of faith and cultural engagement is what it is.
Oh, okay.
So I think it'll be, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Somebody might decide to pay my way to a PhD, and then I wouldn't argue with them about
I'm so
that
far
either.
dead. I don't even care.
I don't know. All right, everybody. So thank you for coming and joining us and to kind of having a lighthearted, poking fun a little bit at some things that people take a little too seriously sometimes. And if we take anything away from you, I think both of us want us to have all of you take away the thing that's important. And that is that God loves us. God wants to dwell with us. And God has gone to do far beyond amazing things and the incarnation to come down so that God can restore us to relationship with him. And that's the thing that really, really matters, not what day the Exodus happened. So thank you all. And we are on a journey this year to waking up to the mystery in Scripture because it is a beautiful, enchanting story. So come back next time and we'll see you all then. God bless.